Good afternoon and welcome. We're so happy to have you with us. Grab your lunch because this is NNOA's virtual brown bag. My name is Mary McAdams. I'm the chair of the Career Development Committee. As you may already know, our mission is to enhance sea service operational readiness by supporting recruiting, professional development, and retention in an effort to achieve a diverse officer corps that reflects the demographics of our nation. This particular session of NNOA is to emphasize our career development and professional development mission. Today, we are pleased to have with us Supply Corps officers in the United States Navy as we're going to be discussing career development strategies for our Navy Supply Corps officers. Today, we have with us Captain Jay Turner, who is the Director of Supply Corps Personnel at Navy Personnel Command in Millington, Tennessee. We also have Captain Milton Troy, Chief of Staff at Navy Sea Systems Command, and Captain Troy used to be the service affiliate for NNOA. We also have Commander Leanne Riley, Supply Corps, who is our community manager for Supply Corps officers, and she's also in Millington, Tennessee. We are happy to have these distinguished officers with us today, and we do realize that this is a different lineup than the one we advertised on our original flyer. But rest assured, these distinguished officers are able to answer all of your questions, and we will be able to engage as we would with the original cast that we had planned. So sit back, think of your questions, put them in the NNOA YouTube chat function so that we may be able to answer them. Now, as I mentioned, Captain Turner is the Director of Supply Corps Personnel at Navy Military Personnel Command. He has 26 years in the United States Navy. That's 26, not 16 and not 6, but 26 years in the United States Navy as a Supply Corps officer. So he is a graduate of the Naval Academy. He has served on the USS Newport News, SSN 750, the USS Nimitz, CVN 68, and the USS Frank Cable, AS 40. Before assuming his current position, he was the CO of Fleet Logistics Center, Sigonella, in Naval Supply Systems Command. Now, Jay is a very well rounded officer who will be able to be our moderator and make sure that we get to all of our questions. So at this time, Jay, I'm going to turn the mic over to you so you can introduce your colleagues and we can jump right into it. Again, get your lunch and let's get started.
Captain McAdams, thank you so much, and thank you for allowing us to be here today. So I'll go ahead and give a few facts about both Captain Troy and Commander Riley. So Captain Troy, as you said, is the Chief of Staff at the Naval Sea Systems Command. He is a graduate of Morehouse College, and his previous assignment, he was the commanding officer of the Center for Surface Support. He also has held command at EOD ESU 2, and he also served afloat on the USS Normandy, and also as supply officer on the USS Spruance. Commander Riley, she's a graduate of the Ohio State University. She has afloat tours on the USS Nicholas and the USS Louisiana, which is a Trident-missile submarine. And ashore, she served as our Director of Food Service for Naval Supply Systems Command, and she was a Deputy Business Financial Manager at the Naval Air Systems Command, and was also Educational Counselor at the Navy Supply Corps School. So the reason that I'd asked my colleagues to be a part of this today is because, as you heard, we have a varied, vast, and deep portfolio of varied experiences throughout the Supply Corps. And when you put all of those together, I think we are able to on all of the competencies, capabilities, and mission features that the Supply Corps and supply officers work in order to support Navy mission. Our intent today is to field the questions and really give the audience a good sense of what we are looking for in the development of the Supply Corps officers from ensign to captain, and some of the specifics along that career continuum, so that as we're mentoring or receiving mentorship or using this as a platform to reach out to Supply Corps officers, it'll keep people better informed so that we create the strongest range and depth of Supply Corps officers that the Navy can produce. So what I'll do is I'll pause there. I'll turn it over to Captain Troy to see if he has any additional comments, and then Commander Riley, and then Captain McAdams. I'd recommend that we go ahead and start fielding questions. So Captain Troy, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Jay. One thing that I do want to foot stomp as far as my introduction, my life member number of NNOA, L20180919, life member NNOA. So just show for those that are considering joining NNOA and the level of commitment, though, I highly encourage you. It's probably one of the best decisions I've made within my naval career. My first introduction with NNOA, I was a midshipman at Morehouse College, and we took a road trip up to Quantico for an NNOA conference, though. And that was over 27 years ago. And so I'm still having an affiliation with NNOA. So when I got the call, I couldn't say no. Happy to be a part of this discussion, and looking forward to answering your questions.
No, just appreciate the opportunity to join the panel here with Captain Turner and Captain Troy. It's interesting partnership here between NNOA and the Supply Corps Wright Foundation. The opportunity to mentor our officers, to be very transparent and have these open discussions across all of the ranks and pay grades. It's something that's special to NNOA and also within the supply community. So excited to have the opportunity to spend the next 35, 40 minutes here with the group and get down to brass tacks and information about the community and career development.
Okay, Captain McAdams, I don't see any questions yet, so I'll start off and see if I'll start off with a narrative from a question that we are typically fielded, and then see what we can do from there. So one question that I often get is, was there a deliberate plan of action developed by me to achieve success in my career? And the answer is yes. So what we typically will do as ensigns, when we're in the BQC or even before, when we're in our commissioning sources, is kind of do some research on what it means to be a Supply Corps officer. And if you take a look at Admiral Stamatopoulos' guidance, he's very, very direct, saying that what we want to do is create a career where we have a progressive mix of field and headquarters experience. So why does he want that? Why is that important for Supply Corps officers? If you look at Supply Corps officers, we have experience where we're doing integrated logistics, financial management, contracting, planning, operations research, right? All of these different arms. But when you have a progressive mix of experiences, both ashore headquarters and afloat and operationally, you are able to start to take all of those individual competencies and put them together. You're able to have competent conversations with your line counterparts as you're making operational and strategic decisions. An example would be spares in the Pentagon. Many people will look and say, okay, spares, you're talking about parts ILS, but it's more than that. You have to understand the financial management piece from a hardware systems command, as well as NAV sub headquarters with working capital fund, to understand how we invest and then recoup those dollars. You have to understand contracting with buy repair plans. You have to understand operations research and the models that go into identifying the right range and depth of materials that are either bought or repaired. And then you have to understand information technology and how we interconnect all of that information across multiple systems to get to our solution sets and continue to work that. So that's just the functionality as a Supply Corps officer. As a naval officer, you need to be able to work with your line counterparts on managing risk. As everyone knows, we're all fighting for the same dollar, so you don't always get all the dollars that you need. So you need to understand that if a program is not going to get funded or funded to the amount that is desired, what are the operational or strategic impacts to our nation? And when you're able to have those kind of conversations at a very high level, that's where you really start to see the power and the influence of the Supply Corps officer. And that all starts back as an ensign and building up a career track of things that interest you. The things that are most important that I've found is finding things that interest you and then going out and executing sustained superior performance, because above all else, that's what we value in the community. I'll pause and see if Commander Riley have any additional comments to that.
Yeah, I'll jump on that real quick.
Okay.
Again, I think Jay, you kind of laid out as far as from the technical, well, both the technical and leadership, though. I mean, to me, from as far as a strategy, this is what I tell pretty much everybody that comes to sit down with me when it comes to map out their career, whether it's a plaque officer, whether it's SWO, or whatever. Focus on 3 C's, and CNO has brought this up: character, competence, and connections. Okay. The competence, I think the supply corps community, we do a very good job of mapping out what competence skills that you're looking for. The way Captain Turner just laid out as far as being able to understand the afloat, the shore, how things are integrated, that is so key to filling the leadership roles at the 06 and actually 05 and beyond. So to create that competency level is critical to be the right leaders that we're looking for, though. But also we're looking for folks with character as well too. I know when I was the EA, Chairman Ewan, do good, do right, do honorable. That was the key things that was beat into the community's head to make sure that the decisions, the operational decisions that we were making, they were done so ethically and honorably. And then the connections. I think we do a very good job of networking. That builds the trust and camaraderie to be able to get things done faster with less resistance. So, as a strategy for me, it's character, competence, and connections.
And I would add just one last thing as far as strategy to touch back on that. So I highly recommend folks be a student of their careers, right? It's not the Navy's responsibility, right, to manage your career for you. And when I say to be a student of it, right, things are going to change throughout the entirety, right? When I commissioned back in 2006, IAs and GSAs overseas were a rare occurrence. By the time I finished that first operational tour, almost all of us were going over to Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, in the area there. And that changed in just a matter of a couple of years. Now we talk about 04 operational tours within our career. There was a point in time where many folks didn't have to go to 04 operational tours. Now this is a valuable experience that we have for our officers, and there's a lot more demand for those officers out there. And so that reality within our career path has changed. As a student of our career, you sort of see those things coming. And so I encourage everyone to have those open conversations with leaders, with your peers, attend the road shows. Obviously you're here, so you're invested in yourself and learning what's going on, so you can sort of stay up to date and on trend with where the trajectory of the community is going. And if you understand how the community is being managed, you understand what's on trend within the Navy and what leadership is talking about, you can start to piece together puzzles. You can start to find where your place is. So I encourage you to just continue to participate, continue to have those conversations, study what people are interested at the leadership levels, and you'll start to find your niche and be able to define that path to define your career.
Okay, so first question comes from Matt. The question is, the CNO pushes, quote, get real, get better, and quote. Based on that, when is the supply corps going to, quote unquote, get real and release the community survey 2 years ago? What are we hiding? So Matt, first, thank you for your question. We do appreciate it. And so here's what with the survey. Received the survey and the comments and worked about, I think it's 692 comments. And what we've tried to do is take those comments and digest them down into areas of focus. The reason that was done was to really concentrate on where the community at large had concerns and wanted to see leadership take our brain power and our collective capabilities as leaders and drive the way forward. So much of the late 2021 and in 2022 was walking through these and explaining the areas that the community has real focus in terms of networking, opportunity, and mentorship. The Chief of Supply Corps has addressed these to the Senior Supply Corps Senior Leadership Symposium or Skill Set, the 06 and above. he intends to brief that out to and the BCO in his Navy Leader Development Framework briefing, which we've been working on for most of the year. Many of the questions that were asked and comments were provided in a brief that Commander Riley did along with Captain Erno during skill tests. So that's posted, I believe, on the NAVCA portal so people can take a look. The bottom line is what we wanted to do was focus on where the issues are, what is driving the concerns or frustrations of the community, and really get after that and come up with the solution sets and make changes so that we can improve the state of the supply corps and get better. Okay, next question is what strategies have each of you used to develop yourself? So I'll go ahead and get started. The very first thing that I did as an ensign was I got a copy of the It's Your Career Playbook. And in the front of that playbook back in 1996, there was a generic career path that you could fill in. I read it. I talked to people in my office. I asked for people that they knew who were experts in those fields that I had interest in, which were specifically submarines, financial management, and fuel. And I talked to those folks. I laid out a path. And what I did was I just then focused on goal number one, getting to a submarine. In the Supply Corps school, I was lucky to get to a submarine. Once I was there, I said, okay, goal number two. And that's what I did. And I just tried to build genuine relationships along the way. One of the best things I think a person can do is build relationships just to have them. People that you can talk to, you can bounce ideas off of, air out any frustrations, but really get a peek at maybe they know somebody or they're involved in an area that you really value and want to be a part of and have an experience in. And in doing that over time, things just became very natural and very easy. And by the time I was a lieutenant commander, experience, folks that I wanted to talk to, and it also gave me an opportunity to mentor other people who may have had concerns. The submarine focus is a pretty small knit group, and often I'm given the opportunity to talk to people about what you can do and all the breadth of leadership opportunities that we have, leadership development that's available across the squadrons, the groups, subtenders, and the different classes of submarines. So bottom line is I just made an outline as an ensign. I built some relationships, and I just kept in touch and involved with mentors throughout the Supply Corps and NNOA. Captain Troy?
Yeah, I guess for me, and I'll be honest though, I was not as mature as Captain Turner was to do all the diligent reading up front in my career though. But I think for my career success, kind of listening to mentors, seeking out mentors early on, getting their perspective as far as what do they think as far as from a leadership perspective. I think Commander Riley spoke earlier as far as being a student of the game. Yeah, again, did I do as much homework up front? No, but as I got to maybe probably the lieutenant phase, I was taking a little bit more interest as far as understanding what my position is, not just on board that ship, but in the Navy as well too. So be a student of the game, reading national security strategy, Harvard Business Review as well too. So to kind of get that balance as far as, hey, what do I need to do in order to be a well-rounded officer, one, and then secondly, to be a well-rounded supply corps officer. Because we got to understand why we're here. We were commissioned, we all took the same oath to become an officer, though. So leadership first, but then the technical competence as far as what the supply corps community brings. We got to make sure that we're doing that, though. So staying in tune with my mentors, later in life, kind of reading, keeping up to date on things like that. But then also, and a lot of this gets lost sometimes, doing what I wanted to do, doing what interests me. I can't tell you how many times I sit down with young officers that say, hey, I need to do this. Well, why do you need to do this? Well, so-and-so does. So-and-so did it. Well, that's not necessarily a good reason to do it. What interests you? There's some things that I have no interest in doing. I had no interest to go into submarine, and so I didn't even raise my hand. They probably wouldn't have taken me anyway, though, but that's neither here nor there, though. But I do think it's important to do the things that you're passionate about, but also understand weighing the there's always a risk in taking certain jobs versus others. Just stay informed. So that's all I got.
Yeah, and I would close out by adding, right, a mentor, and I don't remember, I was listening to a captain speak, and I wish I remember who it was because I've referenced them for years now, but, understanding, what you need to have in your toolbox to be hired later on, right? So when I say hired, those are promotions, right? We promote people to hire into jobs that require advanced types of skill set, right? Just like out in industry. And so if you understand, what does it take to be a captain? What are the jobs that exist at captain? What skill sets do you need to have a captain? And I'm not talking just kind of competency skill sets, right? This isn't just about AQDs and subspecialty codes. This doesn't mean you have to be an acquisition expert. This means you have to have those critical thinking skills, that integrated knowledge that Captain Turner and Captain Troy talked about. How do you build and develop that perspective so that when you do go up for promotion to commander or captain, that you possess the skill set that makes you hireable into that next pay grade? You can actually be detailed by the captain of the world into those jobs. Now you need to walk back 5, 7, 10 years and start having a vision on how do I develop myself into that hireable if that's my goal. And you don't have to commit to captain today, right? You don't have to commit to commander today. Make decisions, though, that are going to set you up for success, whether you decide to transition out at 4 years or 8 years, or that are going to set you up for success when you look to promote and advance into commander or captain in those advanced pay grades. Either way, you're going to be successful, whether you're going out into industry and you have gained experience as a contracting officer, as a finance person, supply chain manager. You're going to set yourself up for success if you're looking to be advanceable, you're looking to be hireable. But part of that is studying what skill sets and jobs and what does that mean. It isn't just about coding. It's really about those experiences. And if you work yourself backwards in your career, you'll keep yourself planning for success no matter what path you choose, whether it's short-term or long-range in this career field.
All right. So our next question, the question is, has there been a discussion on having lieutenant commanders conduct their O4 operational tour after their utilization tour postgraduate school? This would allow corps to use their skills right after grad school. So short answer, yes. And the way that we have been detailing is predicated upon several things. First, we need to fill our operational tours first and foremost. But when we have that balance, the number of people that we rotate each year at the O4 level is almost exactly the amount of folks that are coming through those programs. So that's why you have seen the push for people to go to those tours first. Also, we are looking to ensure that we have balance and give people opportunities to grow across their careers. So in the past, as we've looked at community values, and we said, hey, Officer A has met certain community values. They're lined up and have everything that they would need to on paper for, say, the 05 board. We want to put them at a larger float for leadership. Why? Because leadership is the basis, that's the core of what we do, developing leaders. An operational tour is no for get through the experience of working capital environment if you haven't done that. The opportunity to lead a larger group of junior officers, it lets a senior supply corps officer who has been selected for a milestone to be part of your evaluation to say how well you do at grooming and leading people, putting them to the next level. So the operational that's we're looking at. Now, we understand some of the concerns that are hinted at in Faith Ann's note here. So we have been working with the OCM on, hey, what are some things that we may want to consider so that we can give ourselves some flexibility? Everybody understands the original tour, but what can we do to provide flexibility so that, hey, we can have that tour as the second half of a career path? So I'll pause there. I'll see if Commander Riley has any additional comments on that, or we'll go to the next question. Leanne?
Yeah, no, that's, I think Captain Turner brought up a great point about the community's values. So, there is limited time, especially with as early as promoting commander today, and really not just promoting, screening your record for commander today is very early. It's as early as we're allowed to go as far as statutory limits allow. And so, we want to give everybody as much opportunity to be prepared for that moment in time as we can. And so the community's values, those are promotion. Those are written for promotion. They're not so much written for our career development, although that's a guide that you all use, but they're actually a promotion document. That language comes from the convening order. And so our boards are going to select based off of criteria within those values. And so Captain Turner and his team, and what we do with career management here, try to ensure that all of our officers meet them. Not everybody gets the opportunity to do an internship, especially with the limited inventory we have the lieutenant pay grade today, with a lot of the requirements to meet those operational tours, those OCONUS tours. As we fit within these guidelines that we have to meet for the Navy's mission, not just Supply Corps, but Navy's mission, opportunity may be limited to lieutenant, junior grade, and junior lieutenant to develop some of those skill sets that are required for promotion to 05. And so Captain Turner's team are putting a lot of emphasis here on, hey, if that opportunity didn't happen early, let's get you that opportunity still before you screen. And the trade-off here is some folks did have that opportunity early on, and now maybe they're the folks that are coming up for the 04 operational tours. It truly is for the benefit of the whole community and the individuals in the community so that everybody's got a fair chance. Performance is going to win all, right? So you still have to take those opportunities, you still need to perform to be able to promote. But it's balancing opportunity across the entire continuum of those first, 4 pay grades, versus the requirements we have to meet the Navy's mission. Now, we are taking, and we have taken a hard look at what the community's values are, what the promotion requirements are for 04, 05, 06, and expect to see some changes coming soon to those to try and continue to give flexibility, because we recognize over time, as our inventory numbers have gone down, we have a lot less flexibility in our career path, and that's stressful on everybody across all the pay grades. And so we are working hard here in Millington to address those concerns. We have heard them, installed surveys. I think we see them, we talk to our peers, right? We listen to people that we're mentoring, and frankly, some of, and so we do hear you. We are looking for opportunity to do that, hopefully get more flexibility, but the requirement to also fill those 04 operational tours, just like 01 and 03 op tours, it's still there. It's not going away. It's number one priority.
Okay, next question. It says, Commander, what have you done to be noticed in your previous commands?
Perform, I suppose, right? Saint Spirit, most favorite line. That's truly it, right? I try to be engaged with the leaders that I'm working with. I try to learn what's important to them, understand kind of what our priorities and missions are. I think it's important that you're an active participant wherever you are. And so, and another thing I think I would recommend too, right? So in addition to just being a performer where you are, being professional, being engaged, is never miss a chance to take an opportunity. So you're going to have moments in your career where an opportunity is going to come up in front of you, and the questions are going to take it or not. And how you look at that chance, it could define your career for you. So women were not on board submarines when I commissioned. And frankly, I don't think I would have gone to a submarine out of the BQC because my head wasn't ready for that, and it wasn't an option anyway. But by the time I was looking for a second operational tour was the time that the flash came out from the Chief of Supply Corps, and they were looking for applicants for submarines. That was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to answer the call of the community at a time where they were looking for people to raise their hand and volunteer. And it changed the trajectory of my career by just being willing to kind of seize that opportunity. Yes, of course, there were some challenges with that, right? The integration of women was challenging, but also it gave me a whole new perspective on things. It allowed me to make connections and networks I wouldn't have had. It opened doors and opportunity for jobs perhaps I wouldn't have gone to. And so you're going to have moments like that in your career. Don't be afraid to at least consider them, right? It may require some short-term sacrifice, but short-term sacrifice typically in the Navy leads to long-term opportunity. And so be willing to jump if that comes in front.
Okay, so now we have a comment. I'll pass it to Captain Troy. It simply says, Admiral Mullen recommended a great book, Speed to Trust, and it was at the top of his CNO reading list. No question necessarily behind it, but Milt, over to you.
Oh, I apologize. I haven't. Hold on. Actually, I probably should put that on my reading list though, because I haven't read it though. But I will tell you one book that since we're talking about books, there's a book that I highly encourage every officer, supply corps officer to read, and that is The Kill Chain. Christian Rose, I think that's the author still. And the reason why I encourage, again, I know there wasn't a question in there though, but you said books, so I just kind of jumped on that one though. It talks about, I guess, the state of the world as far as national security, but the need to be able to make decisions quickly with the most information that you can. And if you think about the threats that we face as, from a national security perspective, though, closing that kill chain is becoming more important. If you think that the supply corps community doesn't have a role in that, we actually do have a role in that, though. And so, as we are able to make more informed decisions when it comes to supply chain, logistics, and everything like that, though, we have to think outside the box. So that's why I kind of commend Admiral Stamatopoulos as he leads the NSS supply effort to get the end-to-end supply chain for the Navy, though. So closing that kill chain, though. So I know there wasn't really a question, though, but again, highly recommend the book, The Kill Chain, as some good professional reading for all of us to do.
Okay, so the next question comes from Matt. It says, why are so many 06s in the supply corps punching at what's going on with our community? It is a sign to start to put an exit plan in place. So we'll dissect it and answer all three sections. So the first is, why are so many punching at high 3? So typically what we look for is about 26, 27 folks in a given year. And what that does is it allows the OCM to kind of manage the flow and how many people we believe will need to come in as folks retire. Right now, we're seeing something a little bit higher than that, about 32 folks. So as I talk to folks, and you break down the 32 people, 17 of those are statutory. So those folks have enjoyed the Navy to the point that they waited all the way till the Navy told them, thank you for your service, what you provided to our nation, what your family has sacrificed. Thank you for 30 full years. The remaining 16 or so have a variety of reasons. Some people, their goal was to, hey, I wanted to get to captain, and I'm happy with that, and I'm ready to move on. Some have other circumstances, and life happens to us, to where they've said, hey, I know what the Navy is asking of me, but at this point in time, I don't know that I can provide what the Navy is looking for. And as much as I want to, I cannot find an avenue to do that. And we will work with people to find ways to allow them to continue to serve, work with them, because that work-life family balance is important. And as you become more senior, more is going to be asked of you. And if any of you have been to the roadshow, when I provide the roadshow, I take that Venn diagram and I break it apart and I show the needs of the Navy at the 06 level, and it's very big. And that's designed to get people to think, right? And really look at what's important, where your priorities are. You know, a lot of us have family, and you really need to make sure that you're able to maintain that balance. And we fully and wholeheartedly support the person and their family in their decisions, however they choose to progress forward. As far as is there a certain sign, I would say no sign. From the time we're in ensign and back to when I told the audience that, hey, I filled out this career path, from that time, it was imparted upon me that the more senior you get, the more responsibilities are going to be put upon you, the more that's going to be asked of you. And my mentors gave me the opportunity to really think that through. It gave me the opportunity to talk to my spouse and make sure that we understood what we would be committing to. I don't think that there's necessarily a sign. I just think that there are a few more people right now who feel like getting out before a 30-year point is the right thing to do. Is it time to create an exit strategy? I would tell you it always makes sense to have a full strategy. You never know where life's going to take you. And having an exit strategy does not mean you're not committed. It means that should something happen, should something turn in your life, you have a way to go off and be a leader in our society in a different way. And understand that when we get those phone calls, the next question we ask is, what is it that you need from us that we can help you with so that you can make that transition? Because it is so important that people understand that between the OCM, OP, and leaders like Captain Troy, Rick Larson's community, we're founded and focused on people. It's all about people and doing everything we can to support people. And when people understand that and they have those interactions, yeah, we'll see the numbers, but by and large, the experiences that we work to give people is one that is positive and one that supports. Turn it over to Commander Riley and then Captain Troy for any additional comments to that.
Yeah, I think, I think we are asking a lot of questions about retention right now. So that was a theme that some of you may have either heard at SkillSys or leaders came back and sort of debriefed you on what was discussed, right? We spent a huge portion of the first day of SkillSys with the senior officers in the community talking about retention. We are seeing retention ebbs and flows over time. The stories we take a look at that, but it does at least raise some concern because we need the talent to stay in, right? And it is finding that balance, right? We do as a community value those decisions and value the quality of life of our officers, and we are in kind of a position here where we need to look sort of deeply at our community, what we're asking of our officers, what the Navy is asking of our community, and are we set up correctly? Is it supportive to the quality of life of our officers? Where are those challenges, and really pinpointing those moments, pinpointing those kind of key decision points in time. We think we have a beat on a lot of them, but there's still more that we're pulling apart here in Millington. And understanding why folks are making their decisions. And I think that's a big part of the learning culture we have right now within at least the team here in Millington is really understanding drivers. We tend to get one full side of the story, right? We tend to hear a lot more about folks who are unhappy with things. We don't always hear a lot of feedback when people are making decisions to retain. But I think really getting and dissecting and learning and understanding that will help us shape a little bit about where we getting it right. Where are the ways that we're fine, right? There is a lot of structure within the supply community and how we've managed our careers that has been fine for many, many years that maybe today isn't fine anymore. And so that kind of harkens back to the Get Real, Get Better process, right? Get Real, Get Better is not an instantaneous solution for anything, right? We have to pull apart, we have to go to root cause analysis. We have to be very honest with ourselves, and that is ongoing, and retention is part of that process. And so, why are captains leaving at high 3? I would ask more about the commanders actually than captains, right? Because we're seeing some consistency at the commander pay grades that are maybe more anomalies at lieutenant commander and captain, but we are interested to it. So,
Captain Troy?
I don't really have much more to add on to that, though. It's just, but I do think, when you think about, 06 is leaving after high 3, though, I still think there is a subset across all pay grades as far as folks that have a desire to serve, a commitment to the cause, their purpose. So yes, this is definitely a complex time. The market is great. Job market is great. Let's be honest. For the junior folks, the BRS. Blended retirement system. I think that's a factor as far as keeping folks in though. But I think if we focus on our mission, focus on our purpose as far as our national security, there is, you can probably say the same thing throughout every conflict that we've had over the last 100 some odd years. There's probably been some type of retention issue though. These are unique times, I agree, but I do think we need to focus on why we're here. There is a proud calling and purpose for why we serve. And sometimes we need to be reminded of that across all pay grades. Over.
Okay. Next question from Matt is, apart from personal desire any letters and passing on O5 milestone and MADCOM. So, Matt, to answer your question, quite honestly, I don't ask that question. If a person decides to put in a don't pick me, we accept the don't pick me because in asking the question a couple of times at first, we find out that there are some deep-rooted personal reasons that people have, and I don't want to necessarily cross a line. But with that, my focus is more on what do we need to do in order to generate that desire to be a milestone officer or a major command officer. For me, major command was probably the thrill of life. Being given the autonomy to manage people, resources, and things, manage lives, and make an impact was great. So right now, what our focus is more on what do we need to do to really reinvigorate and excite people to go after those leadership opportunities. And that's what they are, because that's what the Supply Corps is about. It's about building and developing leaders. Another question from Matt is, what exactly are we doing to combat the 30% attrition rate in the lieutenant ranks? So yes, historically, I believe our attrition rate has been about 27, 30%. But what we had seen in the past is we had an excess inventory. So we had billets. So we really didn't see the effects. In the past couple of years, we've had a couple of phenomenons. We had COVID, which really impacted our sections, vehicles, and avenues. And we had an increase in the number of billets that were bought that we had to fill because Supply Corps officers are in such high demand. So now we're really starting to see and feel that impact. We are working here with Millington at MPC to work with our distribution guidance memorandum on kind of the right and left limits on where we can detail folks, particularly overseas and the numbers. And we're really looking at the problem and saying, hey, what do we need to do to try and temper that number? It is a historical number, but we do realize it needs to be a punching lever to pull them so that we can look to ebb that 30%. I'll pause to see if either Captain Troy or Commander Riley have any additional comments.
I'll just add real fast, right? Captain Turner said it, right? Historically, the Supply Corps has had a 27% attrition rate for lieutenants prior to 8 years of commissioned service. We've seen that grow to 30% over the last handful of years. The reality is that we actually account for that attrition rate when we hire people on day one. So our accessions model bases that off, very similar to how SWOs do. We expect to lose a large number of lieutenants because of the heavy operational load that our lieutenants carry. So does it need to be addressed? 100% it does. Today we need to retain more lieutenants than we have historically in the past. And so that is really a new revelation, because for 20 plus years, 27 to 30% attrition for lieutenants was fine. It actually was not a problem. It helped us manage our community's inventory. That's not true anymore. And so we are taking a hard look at that, but that's actually a new sort of learning point for us here in Millington. And to reverse something that has been the norm in our community for decades, that's a big change. That's heavy change. So we are looking at it. We are asking the question. We are going to work with Turner's team and community leadership to find out, are there leverages that we can use to retain lieutenants at a higher rate? But the reality is actually that number, we do account for that as far as how we hire folks through the session process.
Well, we want to thank each of you for being on today. Matt, did you have a final comment before I give my thank yous and whatever's that I need to do? No? Okay. Well, I really want to thank each of you for being on today with us. And to the audience, we apologize for some of the poor quality of the answers. We were experiencing some difficulties. As you know, anytime you're on a military installation, you don't always have the best connections. So I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and re-listen to this particular virtual brown bag because it is very good. There were a lot of questions, and we want to personally thank Matt for gathering all of these questions up and asking those for our audience. And we assure you, from an NNOA perspective, that the senior supply corps boss has promised us no retribution for anything that was discussed or asked today for from our officers. So do not worry. But Matt, we personally want to thank you for gathering up those questions and making sure that your fellow officers' questions were answered by Captain Turner, Captain Troy, and Commander Riley. On behalf of our president, Rear Admiral Pringle, thank you, thank you, thank you. He is on vacation, a well earned vacation, and so that is why he's not here. But we want to say that I'm sure he will be listening. It's probably online, but I'm sure he will listen to this virtual brown bag. There are other virtual brown bags that we have on our YouTube channel. We have been doing this since February. We have one on mental health. So if you're having mental health issues, we ask that you go out. We have professionals that discuss mental health issues. We have senior women leaders in the Coast Guard, Marine Corps, and the Navy who did a virtual brown bag on how they became successful as women officers in the sea services. We also have different other communities out there that we have been able to get virtual brown bags with. A special thank you to STEM City USA for streaming our event. They are always there for us, and they stream it in the tribute hall of the Navy Suite. So thank you, STEM City USA. Thank you to our audience. We are now at our end time. So thank you, Captain Turner, Captain Troy, and Commander Riley. And that is from probably a Lieutenant Davis or a Commander Davis, not sure. But thank you all. We appreciate your insight. And we look forward to a follow up next year from the Supply Corps continuing because there were a lot of questions. And I think that we might have more questions. And we asked the panel members to stick around once we finish saying goodbye, and then we'll wrap up and figure out where to go from here. And a lot of Supply Corps JOs are still wanting a more specific answer about the community survey, Captain Turner. So maybe you can give us one offline that will be on the virtual brown bag, and that will have Matt and all of those JOs coming back to the virtual brown bag on the YouTube channel. So thank you all, and this is the end of our virtual brown bag for today.